yesterday, we explored what a James Conner extension would look like for the Arizona Cardinals. Should they do it? What are some comps? What it would mean for the team, both short and long term. We did that yesterday on the show. So if you missed that conversation, go back to the podcast or search the lunch break wherever you get your podcast, or it's also on the YouTube as well. Today, let's talk about a contract extension for the other side of the ball. Let's talk about a contract extension for Budda Baker. There's a report from ESPN and Jeremy Fowler that used the term realistic when it came to a Budda Baker contract extension before he hits free agency. So before the end of the year, because he and James Conner will both be free agents at the end of this season. Use the term realistic to describe those chances. Not likely, not unlikely, realistic, meaning it's on the table. The story also mentioned that one of the priorities for Budda Baker is winning. I certainly would say what the Cardinals have been doing lately is the perfect sales pitch to Budda Baker. Hey, you like winning? We're doing a lot of winning right now, in large part because you're here. You are the leader. You are the captain of this defense. A defense that is playing well above their talent level. A defense that is, over the last month, playing out of their mind. A top 10 defense in football over the last month. Close to a top 5 defense, you could say. So a great sales pitch over the last month or so for the Arizona Cardinals if what Budda Baker is prioritizing right now is winning. Winning 4 in a row, being 6-4, being in first place in the division. One game away from being the 3 seed in the NFC. I would define all of that as winning. How far we have come from the April 2023 trade request that Budda Baker made. That feels a century ago. Here we are now talking about a potential extension for Budda Baker. Now the Cardinals have an opportunity to keep the leader of their defense, 28-year-old safety on the back end of their defense, in the building. Yesterday we said James Conner is the culture of the offense. He is the person that you point to of, hey, if one player embodied the identity of the offense, who would it be? You'd point to James Conner. Hey, who embodies the culture and energy and structure of the defense? You'd point to Budda Baker. That's what Budda Baker is for this defense. There is so much value in keeping somebody that talented, that impactful, who brings that type of leadership around. We told you yesterday the space that the Cardinals have cap-wise. Second most cap space for 2025. Only team better than them is the New England Patriots. Over $100 million currently in cap space. Doesn't include any restructures to open up money. Doesn't include any of these contract extensions. A lot of money for this organization to play with. They could sign James Conner to the extension that we outlined yesterday, a 2-year, $20 million extension, or a 3-year, $30 million extension. They could sign Budda Baker to a market value safety contract and still have enough money to address the holes, the upgrades that I'm sure we would be able to come up with pretty quickly. We would be able to put together a shopping list for Monty Ossenfort in one show. We'd be able to put that together. They could sign James Conner, they could sign Budda Baker, and they would still have the resources available to do whatever else could be on that list. The team has put themselves in front of free agency, ahead of free agency. They're not sitting back and letting free agency come to them. They're not sitting back and letting the offseason come to them. They are organizationally getting in front of this stuff. That's what good organizations do. They don't get caught up in the current year's success or failure. They don't get caught up in the week-to-week minutia of a season. Good organizations, good front offices, good GMs are always looking 3 moves ahead. They are supposed to be the best chess players. They are supposed to see the way the board is going to play out and think 3, 4, 5 moves ahead. Okay, if I do this, the other teams are going to do this. That's what GMs do. Coaches, they focus on the here and now. They focus on the week to week. They focus on the season at hand. GMs, front offices, scouts, player personnel, they are the ones that are having constant meetings of what does our 2025 situation look like? What does the 2026 situation look like? If we sign these players to this contract, what does it do to our budget? They have cap guys and gals who get paid a lot of money to look at this and say, if we do this, these are some of the creative avenues that we can use to free up money. If we're going to sign a guy to this contract, this is how we should structure it. I'm sure there have been countless number of meetings in the front offices of the Arizona Cardinals where Monty Ossenfort has discussed this version of a contract for James Conner, that version of a contract for James Conner. What if we structured it this way? What if we structured it that way? Those conversations have happened. They have war gamed out already these scenarios. With all the data, all of the analytics, they can look around and see, hey, what's the deterioration look like for a safety at 28 years old? What does that production look like? Is that something that we're willing to pay for now, but know that maybe the back end of this contract, the skills will deteriorate? Same thing with James Conner at running back. You are able to do all of that work. That's what a GM in a front office is able to work on during the season. People talk about, what do GMs do during the year, right? Once the trade deadline passes, what are they doing? This is the work that they are doing. This is the work that those groups are doing. So good organizations are ahead of free agency. Good organizations don't get to free agency and stumble around and just sign guys. There's a plan. You don't think that there's a whiteboard somewhere in an office in Tempe or in Glendale that has a potential offseason plan for the Cardinals already thought about? Those conversations have already happened. Monty Ossenfort has put this team in place to already, as we sit here on November 14th, to be in an excellent spot for 2025's offseason. So that you can entertain a Budda Baker contract extension. You can entertain a James Conner contract extension. Now, you have to do the work. You have to acquire players that are talented. You have to have the right player development so you can draft young players and turn not just your first and second round, your top 100, your day 1 and day 2 picks into something. You got to have some gems on day 3. You have to find some home runs with your 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round picks. When you do that, when you fill out your roster with day 3 picks that you turn into something, that you turn into valuable players, it opens up a world of possibilities. It really opens up everything to you as an organization. So to tie this back to Budda Baker, we talked running back yesterday. We're talking safety today. If we were making a list of positions that you really probably wouldn't want to be the team that resets the market value for, running back and safety are 2 of those positions that I think are undervalued is the word that I will use, meaning teams feel like they can get a running back with a day 3 pick. They can draft a safety that can give them decent production without needing. If they're going to spend money, we're spending money on a quarterback. We're spending money on a left tackle. We're spending money on a shutdown corner. We're spending money on a wide receiver 1. That's where we're investing our resources. Running back, we can rotate through those guys year in and year out. Safety, I don't feel the need to pay big dollars for a safety. The Cardinals can do that. They can pay their running back. They can play their safety. They've got their quarterback. They've got their left tackle. I think they've got a corner. They've got a wide receiver. They've checked a lot of the other boxes. So when you've checked a lot of the other boxes, yeah, you can spend on a running back. Yeah, you can spend on a safety. And oh, by the way, they can spend on those guys and then go into the offseason and still have a ton of cap space. They could sign Budda Baker and James Conner to contract extension, eat into their 2025 cap, and still probably be a top 5 or 10 team in cap space going into 2025. They could sign both of those contracts today, and they would still be a team that has more cap space than 2/3 of the league. That's how good the situation is for the Arizona Cardinals. I don't want to overlook what's going on right now, but this is a bye week. This is the time to have these conversations. We're not in the weeds on the next opponent for the Cardinals. We'll save that for next week when we talk about the Seahawks. Right now, we can get in the weeds on offseason stuff. We can get into the weeds on the big picture stuff. Guess what? The big picture is even brighter than the small picture, than the current picture is for the Arizona Cardinals.